We got married, and within the first 6 weeks, I started having sex with a condom on because I knew I did not want to have a child with her. I mean, man, she would jump on top of me. She would jump behind the car so I wouldn't leave the house. She would restrain me physically. I didn't cheat on you. If I did, I'd be so much happier. I wouldn't be with you anyway. She goes inside, she slams the door, and when she slammed the door, she turned around. She flips me off, and she's like, "Fuck you, bitch." And during that period of time, dude, I slept in my guest room. I slept with my gun.
What was, I know, so you had some rough patches, and I know you said that you had gotten back into going to church on a regular basis. Yep. You'd given up alcohol during your first marriage. You had quit alcohol already.
So 7 months, and then we got married. We came down here, and then it was like, oh yeah, I'll just have one or two. So we started
you went
drinking
7
again.
months sober to 1 or 2.
Yep, 7 months sober, mostly so that way I could get her back.
Yeah.
Right? Then I got her back. We got engaged again, and then we got married. And maybe in that time I was drinking it as well, but like we decided it was okay that I could have like limits, right? 1 or 2.
Yeah.
Well, then my limit for 1 or 2 was I'm going to push my ABV as high as possible. So I look at a beer list and I'm like, 13%, cool, I'm going to have one of those. Oh, that one's 14%, cool, I'm going to have one of those.
Yeah.
So I would push that limit to try to get that buzz.
Yeah.
And then the 2 became a 3, and 3 became a 6, and so forth.
And just
so I started
escalated.
drinking again. That became an issue with our relationship. I was in, restaurant business. She was working the day, I was working at night. We had Charles, our oldest, unexpected blessing. He came about, and then I got into automotive. I couldn't go to school. I couldn't finish school because they didn't have night classes at that time or online. I was in the restaurant business, got out of that so I could spend time with my family. Well, that happened, and then I started working 60, 70-hour weeks, going up the career chain. In sales. I was on the sales floor for about a little over a year. Then I got promoted to finance and sales manager for Mercedes-Benz. And then doing that for a while. Then I was a finance manager, sales manager, then Infinity sales manager, Alfa Romeo, Maserati. I was pursuing career and money and title and 60, 70 hours a week doing that. Also alcohol. And when I got home, I didn't want to really talk to anybody. So my wife... At the time, she was at home with the kids. We had 2 kids at that time, So
you were working in for like Mercedes, Maserati.
At one point, I was the manager for Maserati, Alfa Romeo, Infinity. I think that was it at that time.
Down here?
Just those 3, yeah. Down on Savannah Highway.
Interesting.
So, and then I got out of that. Then I was I ran the Somerville Sprinter van plant up there, or not the plant, but the dealership.
Yeah.
And then after that, I got out of that because I was not spending enough time with, during that time I got divorced. So my first wife, she's the kid.
Who you had 2 children with.
2 children with.
Yeah.
That I would say was more like a traditional divorce. I pursued career, I pursued money. I did not put God first, and I did not put her first. We just fell apart.
Yeah.
And differences and stepped away from each other. Eventually it was like, we were living together more like roommates than we were spouses, and no intimacy, the last year and a half relationship, there was no intimacy. And so eventually it was like, hey, do you love me? And she was like, I'll always love you. I said, well, are you in love with me? And she said, no. And I said, okay, we need to get a divorce. And at that time, my boys were like 2 and 5.5-ish, something like that, I think.
Yeah.
And we decided to do that because I grew up in a family house where my mom and dad, and they're still married, still very intimate. My dad would still smack my mom on the butt, pinch her butt or whatever, call her beautiful, and just like build her up and love on her. And like, that's what I grew up with.
Yeah.
Even though I saw a different side of my dad, to me, like I grew up with my dad loving and respecting my mom.
Yeah.
And I want my kids to grow up that way too. So we decided, hey, we're going to get a divorce, separation. South Carolina, you need to be separated for 1 full year before you start any relations with anybody else. But because we didn't have any relations with each other, we decided, hey, we're going to get separated. We're going to be able to date whoever we want. So,
oh man,
as soon as I got separated, I literally jumped right into another relationship. And this is so during that time, I started going back to church as well. getting, again, kind of my road with God has been up and down a lot.
Yeah.
And he's always been there throughout everything. He's always been with me, but I didn't pursue him in a manner where he was actively in my life.
Yeah.
So I was making the decisions in my life. I thought that this was the decision that God wanted and what he had made for us. I met this girl who was also going through separation and divorce. So I was thinking, great, two broken people coming together. They're going to have a great relationship, and then we're going to be able to use that to be able to talk to other people who are broken, going through the same thing. And we're going to help them with their marriages.
Yeah.
That was my idea. Year and a half
That
of
was
dating.
your idea.
Yes. Year and a half of dating her. We did not sleep together. We did not live together. I would go to her house. We would have dinner or whatever. If we got into an argument, we would talk about it, discuss it, and then I would leave. I would go home, or vice versa, right? We get married. We got married, and within the first 6 weeks, I decided I started having sex with a condom on because I knew I did not want to have a child with her.
Oh, wow.
That was within the first 6 weeks. It was night and day. I got used, manipulated. During that first year and a half, she really lied to me about what was going on. And then when we got married, after we got into an argument, I wasn't leaving the house. I was still there. So we would talk about what would happen. And then there would be like, hey, I'm sorry, I love you. And then it was, I hate you. And why did you do this? And dude,
man.
Beyond bipolar, I lived in a domestic violence relationship. I was verbally abused by her, mentally abused by her.
This is your second wife.
And physically abused by her. We dated for a year and a half. I didn't see any of this. Get married. After you get into argument, you can't leave. So the ups and the lows and the hot, man. So then, and again, during this time, I gave up alcohol again.
Yeah.
I was sober for a while.
So your relationship with alcohol has been kind of like off and on. Like you get sober for a little bit, and then things would kind of even out, and then you start drinking
Things
again.
would get bad.
And then things would get real bad, and then you just quit again for a little bit.
I would cope with it.
Cope with it, yeah.
Because alcohol, hey, you're having a great time when you're drinking. Well, if you're depressed and you start drinking, you're going to have a great time, right? Ideally. No.
Yeah.
It's a depressant.
Yeah.
So I was just like depressed, and I was drinking, trying to get out of my depression, but drinking more into depression is what I was doing.
Yeah.
So in this relationship, I started drinking and hiding alcohol from her because I didn't know if I was going to go home, if I was going to go to somebody who is, I love you, you're awesome, or I hate you, you're terrible. There was so much anxiety and depression I've never felt in my life. I started, when we went through this relationship, got married, starting to realize these things, we instantly got into therapy and counseling. And I was honest about things, and she would not be. And
now, was she clinically diagnosed with any type of disorder?
So she was not at first. And then it was like, hey, like something's not right, right? So let's go to the doctor. She didn't want to go to the doctors. Eventually she did. Probably like first 4 months into it, she got put on some depression and anxiety medication.
Yeah.
Okay? She wasn't taking it regularly. So if you don't take your medication regularly, it can also, mood swings are more in your chemical imbalances. So that was even worse.
Yeah.
And so then all that happened. And in that relationship, she would jump on top of me. She would jump behind the car so I wouldn't leave the house. She would restrain me physically. And she was CrossFit girl. Okay. We were both in CrossFit. That's how I met her.
Oh, okay. You met her at a
CrossFit for
gym?
6 years, like freaking jacked.
Yeah.
Right? Like it's what we were.
Yeah.
And I met her at a gym and church. She's
And
joining
church.
my church.
Okay.
So, living in this relationship, I never experienced real like isolation or depression and anxiety until her, and going through counseling and therapy and kind of trying to understand what she is feeling. Because we would have a fantastic day. Then we would lay in bed, and then she would start crying, like sobbing, crying, convulsing crying. So, what is going on? Like, and then we get into a huge fight. And then I love you, I need you, I love you, and then I fucking hate you, you're terrible, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Like, dude, crazy stuff. So
Jesus.
So I eventually, like, there was times where she would have to leave because I would get my boys on the weekends, right? So I get my boys, I got custody of my boys on the weekends. Well, I couldn't have her around my boys when she's like that.
No, definitely not.
We never, like, that relationship and with the boys was never really solid. They kind of knew something. She never could really love in a proper way. And really it was like mentally at the very end of the relationship, a year and a half of our marriage, she did go to see somebody. And within 30 minutes of talking, she got diagnosed as being bipolar and put on some medication. But that whole time we were undiagnosed, and then she started taking it and kind of not really here and there. There was also some stuff with her about comforting another man while he was losing her wife to cancer. She started to text him and say that, man, I confronted her about it, and she blamed it on me, said it was my fault for her texting.
Drove her into another man's arms kind of thing?
Because I was not the friend to him. I should have been that person texting and reaching out to him. But because I wasn't, she said that she was now needed to. So she blamed her having an emotional affair. I don't know if they ever did any physical. I don't think so, because honestly, he's a pretty solid guy.
Yeah.
I always liked him.
Yeah.
And even still, like, I think that he's a pretty solid guy.
Yeah.
But she was doing that and started having some emotional affair. And so there's a lot of narcissism, a lot of just depression, anxiety. And I was trying to cope with alcohol. Very end of it was stuff was brought up about it. And I think that she's got some stuff. I hope that she's getting proper mental health.
Yeah.
Let's just put it that way. She's got some very real
Some
demons.
Yeah.
And when I do mean demons, I do mean probably some sort of spiritual demon type, because the very last thing and the very last night, I get into an argument. I said, I'm going to be happy. I choose to be happy. And I walk out. She's like, you don't know how to be happy. She's like, you can't be happy. And sit down and we talk about it. I'm like, here's my phone. Can I go through yours? Anyways.
Oh,
she
God.
stood up. She was like, I didn't cheat on you. If I did, I'd be so much happier. I wouldn't be with you anyway. She goes inside. She slams the door. And when she slammed the door, she turned around. She flips me off and she's like, fuck you, bitch.
What? Like with a deep voice like that?
Deep, nasty voice, dude. And I'm telling you, some sort of possession. That's what that was. So that was the very end. After that, I said, hey.
I gotta go.
Absolutely not.
Can't do. Absolutely not.
And during that period of time, dude, I slept in my guest room. I slept with my gun because I slept in the guest room one time without it. And I woke up in the middle of the night. She's standing, staring at me, just over the bed, staring at me. And I said, yo, what's up? I said her name. And I'm like, hey, you need to back up. I said, yo, what's going on?
What?
I said, answer me. And she's like, she finally came back too. And she walks over, turns on the light. She's like, oh, what? You think I'm going to kill you or something? And I said, yes, I do. I started sleeping with my gun after that.
Oh, bro.
Or I wasn't financially stable to leave. So I couldn't, just leave and get another place. I was stuck, dude. So then finally, hey, you need to leave. Can't be around this. Got separation and divorce. As soon as she left, within 2 days, I thought everything was great. Then alcohol completely controlled my life. Yeah. That is when I went deep dive into alcohol.
After you guys split?
Yes.
Okay.
Because I was coping with alcohol for depression, anxiety, and stress. And then she was gone. I thought everything was going to be fine, but then I was by myself. And I was still living with all that and anxiety and depression and everything that I just went through. So when I went through all of that, I coped with alcohol. And I was drinking, man, as soon as I woke up in the morning, drive down the road, stop at the gas station, first one, beer.
Yeah.
And I was drinking 2 9.9% ABV beers. Go to work. Lunchtime,
where were you working at the time?
Alcohol. Freaking after work, alcohol.
Where were you working at the time?
DR Horton at the time.
Okay.
Yeah. So, and I could hide it. I was working remote sometimes.
Yeah.
I mean, it was terrible, dude.
Yeah.
And it literally got to the point where I was crying. I was isolated. I was depressed. I was by myself. I didn't have community.
Were you going to church at the time?
I was still in church, but I was not actively involved in church. So I remember, and even when I was still married, going through an abusive relationship. This was in February of 2.5 years ago, so 23.
Yeah.
Going through this, I remember our pastor doing a sermon, and he said, hey, if you are someone who needs community, if you feel alone, you're by yourself, you're not living your life by yourself. There are people who love you and care about you, community of people. Surround yourself with godly people who can lift you up. I said, if you are that person, you need to raise your hand. I have a picture of that, and I raised my hand. I don't even remember raising my hand. It just kind of went up.
Yeah.
But that was the very first small step of faith that I had in saying, God, I'm broken. I need you. I don't have anybody else. I've tried everything to do it my way, but I'm broken. I'm crumbling right now, and I need you. I was in an abusive relationship when that happened.
Yeah.
Started to form relationships with men, went on a couple of men's hikes with the church, and started to find freedom in those things. First men's hike, abusive relationship. Second one, got out of that abusive relationship, but also struggling with alcohol. Third one, being free from alcohol. So February of last year, a little over a year and a half ago, I gave up alcohol completely.
Yeah.
It was, and the only way that I was able to give up alcohol was because I surrounded myself with community of men who loved me and was encouraging me, did not judge me. I was still going to church. I was still serving at church. And I know that there had to have been some days where I showed up and I smelled like alcohol.
Yeah.
But my church did not shun me away. They accepted me. They showed me grace and love the whole entire time. And that is what the body of Christ is, right? I grew up in a church that was hell, damnation, fire. You're going to hell if you don't go to our church, And then coming to what God really is and love and the care that he has for you. He is stern and he has discipline because of what is, the word of God and what it says. But also he is compassionate and wants you and desires you. So I got to that point where I'm like, okay, I need you. I need God. And I was able to give up alcohol because I surrounded myself.